Well, thank you, Madam Chairman, and thank you, Commissioner O'Reilly, for teeing me up. That is exactly the problem. 65% of rural households don't have access to high-speed internet. And I'm talking about the kind needed to work or learn from home. So the share of rural households without access to high-speed internet is 20 times that of urban households. And talk about identifying a barrier. Our past governor, Governor Mead, engaged in a process called Endow, where he identified barriers to economic growth and diversification in Wyoming. And rural broadband, air service, and healthcare were the top three. And rural broadband was number one. And then it became even more exacerbated during the COVID crisis because you had all of these people trying to become educated and working at home in a state that has inadequate broadband services. So thank you, Commissioner Riley, for teeing up my question. You worked extensively to coordinate investment in broadband during your time at the FCC. So you're familiar with the problems overbuild poses to rural and hard to reach areas. What do you envision is the best way to counter overbuild? And excuse me if you've already addressed that.
Well, I have a little bit, but I mean, there's many things that need to be done. But one is, we need to know all the dollars that are going out, and we need to have coordination. But it's more than coordination, because I've sat down with USDA in the past, and we talked about the different. They didn't at the time understand what I was even talking about in terms of subsidized overbuilding. That's a problem when two agencies don't have the same commonality of a concept, and we never got that far. So we never got any resolution to that. It was punted to somebody else. And dealt with, and it's not been resolved. And 90% of the funds from USDA can go to a non-overbuilding purpose, but 10% can be overbuilding. That's problematic in my viewpoint. But it's separate from the decision that the CARES money went to in Tongue River situation, who was facing multiple providers. They had a challenge process that didn't work effectively, and they didn't have one in the state process. And the state's argument was we had to get the dollars out as soon as possible to make sure we receive funding. So there's a lot of things that can be done to rectify that situation going forward.
Thank you very much. And Madam Chair, thanks for doing this hearing. This is really a critical issue in my state. Now, I know this question's come up several times during the hearing, but I have to point out that in Wyoming, many communities, don't even have 25/3 service. So I'm concerned when I hear about proposals to open up federal funding for areas that don't have 100/100. So my question for Mr. Forty, do you think we should prioritize communities that still don't have even basic broadband before upgrading speeds?
Agree. We've got to absolutely 100% agree. We've got to focus on those truly unserved areas left. We serve many of the neighboring states to you. So we've got to get focused like a laser on those and get them broadband once and for all.
Thanks. Commissioner O'Reilly, do you want to weigh in on that?
Well, I absolutely agree with Mr. Forte. It should be the priority of the commission, and it certainly should be reflected in the different programs that are created, that we address and have a laser focus on the unserved population. That whatever that number is, it could be, we could dispute on how big it is on different measurements, but that should be the priority of those that have nothing, those that Senator Sullivan talked about and others have talked about that have substandard broadband today. We should address, and that should be the primary focus, in my opinion.
Well, thank you both. That's music to my ears. Now, I can tell you one of the major sources of red tape holding telecom companies back from providing service in rural America is the federal permitting process. It holds both service in rural areas and tribal governments. So, Mr. Forty, could you talk a little about the impact of federal permitting processes such as NEPA in building out your network?
Yeah, we have obviously in Western North Dakota, very close to Wyoming. There, we've had several issues. Took us almost a year to cross the Missouri River due to needing multiple permits from the Army Corps and others to deliver a new fiber pipe to some areas on the booming energy economy we have in Western North Dakota, where a lot of folks needed better connectivity out there. As we grew to be one of the top oil producing states, delayed broadband getting out there over a year. Similarly, crossing some federal lands in that area also delayed that process. In the Black Hills, with Senator Thune was here with us earlier, again, next to Wyoming, numerous issues in getting service out there because of some of the federal designations, not being able to, for example, there was a road going up a canyon. There was no right of way for the road because the road was built on federal lands. So there was really no place for us to run the broadband. And people up the canyon, no broadband.
You are identifying the issues that are holding Wyoming back. And I am very grateful for your testimony today. And thank you again, Madam Chairman, for holding this hearing. It's just critical to my state of Wyoming. Madam Chair, I yield back.